Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching 72 News, and I'm your host, ShoaibZaidi. This is our first show of year 2021. And expert says nothing is permanent except change. The change is permanent. And so time is one of the symbol of the change. Days goes to week, month become year. And I believe that nowadays we feel that the year are passing very fast. Either we are very busy or lot of happening in our life. And again, whenever we have something, today we would like to discuss about New Year predictions, what happening in the new year, how the new year will go with our experts. And we have the expert panel. I would like to thanks to Dr. Bernard Malik. He is with us, and and we are trying to ask and learn many things from him. I would like to equally thanks to Professor Pitman and Dr. Bernard Malik. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Bernard Malik, let's start 2021 with the best wishes and with the good hopes. And I know that you are a mentor, you are a public speaker, and you always teach about keeping the positive values, hopes, everything there. Let's start the program with you. Dr. Bernard Malik. Sir, you are a businessman, and being a businessman, what is your expectation? What exactly you are thinking after the COVID 2020 and almost 1 year almost lost with less productivity? And then starting off 2021 is with that big hope, but the things are not settling very well. How you are looking as a businessman 2021?
Thank you, Mr. Zaidi. Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all your audience. It's a great start. The way I look at it, life is if you wake up in the morning on your own legs, it's a blessing.
Right.
That we are ushering into New Year with our own legs, healthy, hale, no issues with our health. I think this is a great start.
Right.
And when it comes to the outlook on this year, I think we have to have a better year than last year, no matter what way you look at it.
So, but as I understand that it's really very positive value and positive message to start a new year. But being a businessman, and especially you are directly linked with the international student business. So how you are looking this year with the study of the international students?
Look, there are a lot of challenges. We have had a lot of challenges with international students. Since last March, we have not had any students come from abroad.
Last March 2020.
That's right. So it's been 9 months, and in another couple of months, it will be a year. And I don't see any students coming till July. Qantas just announced today that they will start flying international flights from July. So until July, right, outlook seems very bleak. But government has been very supportive. They have been granting visas, and they're asking students to study online. You still
online.
Yeah, that's right. You still get paid your fee, and students still get the quality education.
Right. So, you mean, can we assume that till July there will be a similar concept of education studies will remain same?
Absolutely.
Possibly.
There is going to be no change until the international students start coming in.
Professor Pitman, Dr. Bernard mentioned mentioned that from March till January. Now from January we are directly proceeding to July. You engage again. You are also engaged with international students, and you are also busy as a policy maker, as a businessman also. How you are looking at the start of this year?
Thank you for having us again. And I think last year the media presented things in a pessimistic way, whereas I think it's a more optimistic year. And I think with the COVID vaccine, and I read a report by one of the scientists who helped develop the vaccinations in America. And he said it's a miracle that they've been able to develop a vaccine so quickly and capable of dealing with the COVID virus. And
Right.
as for international students, yes, I look after an institute called Leaders Institute, which has predominantly Indian and Pakistan and Nepal students and so on, doing agricultural business degrees. And already this year, we've had an increase in students who are interested in going online.
Right.
And so we've had probably almost a 50% increase in interest. We have yet to see them enroll, but at least there's the interest in doing online studies, particularly from India and Nepal and Pakistan, those areas. So obviously people see that the coronavirus is on the wane ultimately, and that education is important in their life, and finances hasn't returned to normal, but at least they know that there is some stability in the world economy and they can go on with their education into next year and further on in the years to come.
Professor, when you just mentioned about the stability in economy, what stats we are considering for stability of economy?
Why I've mentioned the economy is I believe that governments in many countries have supported students and employees and employers.
Yes.
I think the American-Chinese issue will probably be softened with a change of government.
Right.
As for the Australian economy in China, I think that will play out progressively, and Australia may diversify its trade industry. But I think there's a lot of optimism to look forward to this year, and I think people are filled with hope that we're able to develop our trade, our economic, our education, and generally our daily lives will improve this year.
Right, right. So this way, Dr. Bernard Malik, he already mentioned the interest of international students are higher than the previously. Now, one concept could be wrong, that since the COVID started, the people, the good businessmen from the Asian country, they might feeling that this place is much safer from the education side, also from the health side as compared to our countries. Do you think this could be a reason for the increase in the interest of the students?
What has happened in India is in last 6 years, we have a government that is very, how to put it, not well prepared to govern. Let's put it this way. They have their own agenda. Right. So the businessmen feel strongly compelled to go to a safer territories. That is why we also run a migration agency called One World. We have had so much interest in people trying to migrate from India. They're looking for visas, they're looking for investment visas, they're looking for parental visa, whatever they can, they want to get away from the country. Yes, because many times our countries are not resourceful enough to deal with certain challenges, and health has been one of the challenges that people are a bit nervous in our countries.
Right, right. So it means they are finding a safe place, and that could be a reason. Dr. Bernard Malik, again, as you are a leader, you are a public speaker, but at the same time you are a businessman also. Let's put the year in two phases, from January to July and July to December. From January to July, just look at from the helicopter view and would you think you can predict something for the rest of the businesses is the business stakeholders is going to be suffer? We are in January. We can say something based on whatever is there. We can't predict something without any guess or without any facts. So how you're looking from January to July, overall businesses?
Bad, not good.
Not good.
Not good. Whoever thought last year in January that it would get this bad? Whoever thought in March that it would last this long? And even today, I'm not sure if you gentlemen read the news that the Prime Minister of UK has declared national lockdown till 15th of February. For next month and a half, UK is in lockdown. England is in lockdown because they are having 44,000 cases. Even here, you can see how reactive our governments are. Few cases, shut down the country. Few cases, lock the borders. So it is hard to predict anything good until people have the confidence, consumer confidence is up, that everything is fine. Until then, the outlook on businesses is very bleak.
Right. Professor Pitman, Dr. Bernard just mentioned about the UK situation. Because again, you've been part of this government, you've been part of the system, you've been part of the policy. On Christmas, there was a big pressure on the UK government to have the lockdown, but they encouraged people to go for the Christmas, even though before yesterday, like before 24 hours, he was still having the same thing. And immediately after 24 hours, so there was a big critic, on the government. Do you think it's a big failure? He did not understand, the government of UK did not really understand how the situation going to be worse? And it could happen here also?
Certainly, I think UK has, a bit similar to America, has made it a bit more of an open policy with their health issues to try and keep the economy and the community running. Of course, the consequence of that is that the virus is able to, in UK's case, mutate even, which has had a further impact. And their major difficulty is they have a national health system. And because they've got a national health system, it's only capable of handling so many patients, and the more patients they get, it will overwhelm their national health system. They certainly probably have some private health, whereas Australia has a public and a private health system. Certainly the Americans probably have more of a private health system. So there's probably a little bit more flexibility in healthcare, whereas UK doesn't have too many options. And as he said tonight in his media release, the Prime Minister said if they keep going, they could be at breaking point within days in their health system. Whereas I think there's a bit more flexibility in the American and Australian health system. Not sure about India. I'm aware that India also has major virus problems at the moment.
Professor Pitman, because this is the observation from the people, from the public, that the Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of UK, and Donald Trump, they have the similar kind of approach, and that's why they face the consequences. Donald Trump losing the election, and do you think that this similarity from the people, it's true, or do you find it's a different kind of leadership in Boris Johnson?
There's been a lot of discussion by political commentators and journalists that their styles in terms of policy are somewhat similar. For personalities, I think they're probably a little different, but not totally different. I think the difficulty that both of them have is that they want to keep private enterprise going, which is the nature of conservative politics. But on the other side, they've got health practitioners warning of the consequences to their health system and to industry generally. And the difficulty they got is trying to reconcile the two different policy issues. And they've taken a more liberal approach on the health to try and keep the industry going. And some may say that it has worked, others may say that it hasn't. There aren't really a lot of performance indicators, but certainly the Prime Minister of England has indicated his national health system is almost in crisis, whereas Donald Trump hasn't made a comment about his health system being in crisis. It's more about industry being in crisis.
Right. I like to have the opinion on the same question which was raised by one of our viewers, that there is a similarity between the Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, or in other words, the situation of the both countries are similar. Not the personality similar, the situation is similar. Dr. Bernard Malik.
I think their personalities are similar too.
True.
See, Boris Yeltsin and President Trump both refused to acknowledge the impact of corona in the beginning.
Right.
And they both got coronavirus. Whereas Trump survived it without problem, I think Boris Yeltsin barely made it. Their approach to coronavirus in the beginning was very casual.
Right.
They refused to consider it was a serious issue. So that is why this happened. But I think over time, US is very strong in its healthcare system. So they have done well, and they will continue to do well.
Right. Dr. Bernard, people also considering the Joe Biden victory over the Donald Trump may have one reason of the handling of the COVID. Coming back to the Boris Johnson also, do you think that when the election will come, Boris Johnson may face the same results or same consequences which faced by the Donald Trump for handling the COVID?
Hopefully, COVID won't be there when the election happens. He just won the election only a few months ago. So he is a new kid on the block. Having said that, people generally have short memory.
Short memory, yes, you always mention that.
If COVID current vaccine works well, then there won't be any COVID 3-4 months from now or 5 months from now.
Right, right. Professor Dr. Bernard, you mentioned earlier about the reactive handling of the COVID and proactive handling of the COVID. Do you think that based on the situation now, everyone, especially when you are reading the articles, when you're reading the books, you are meeting the people, you meet with a different level of the people. So do you think that in this situation, like from last March till today, January, there is some country they try to handle the COVID as a proactive, not as a reactive?
I think everybody handled it in a reactive way.
Yes.
But the countries that also brought in a proactive handling in their reactive matter have done well. You can see Australia. Australia also handled it in reactive way when President Trump came out and did the ban on international travel. Prime Minister Scott Morrison also did that. But along with that, he did a lot of proactive measures in which they successfully increased the number of testing that were done, and people who were testing positive, they were asked to isolate themselves at home or at hospitals. Government came out and gave a lot of money to businesses to survive. So there was no social crisis, there was no health crisis, but he was reactive in his approach.
Right. Right. Dr. Bernard, just sharing with you that Queensland state is really lucky. In Sydney, the situation happened and they still having the cricket match and the people are there with the social distancing. But for the GABA, because you know that India is planning to come to GABA, but not yet decided. But they already make the arrangement from 37,000 to they were planning to have 18,000. Till today, they are planning to allow only 8,000 people, almost 3 times lower than exactly what, they're still trying. So I think there are some proactive measure on the reactive decision, as you already mentioned. So Professor Pitman, you've been on a part of the policy, and do you think that in policy there is some study always going on which can help to make a proactive decision and avoid the reactive approach?
This will be this current pandemic will be a field of great interest to researchers from sociology to psychology through to medicines and all sorts of fields to try and glean some lessons to be learned. And there will be articles published probably for the next 3 to 5 years from the statistical data and information gathered from government and other sources. So there will be lessons learned that governments and policy will look at. The difficulty in policy is that if we don't have another pandemic in 20 years, we quite often unlearn our lessons because you've got a different generation of politicians, a different generation of bureaucrats, and a younger community coming on. So I think there will be a lot learned, a lot researched, a lot of modelling coming out. The difficulty is whether or not we'll actually make use of it, or whether or not we will put it into a filing system for future reference if we remember where we put it in the filing system.
So what are the reasons that we are not able to use using these documents? Because of no interest, or a lot of paperwork there, and which nobody is interested to read? Why?
Part of it's what you've just said. One of the interesting things in Australian academia is a very low percentage of social science research actually ends up in policy or legislation. So we're slow to develop it into policy and legislation. And the other difficulty, and I think Dr. Bernard raised this a couple of weeks ago, that when they do put it in, nobody really looks at it until the next pandemic, which may be 20 years down, and that pandemic may be different. And we don't quite often have the flexibility to review our policies and legislation quickly enough to be able to deal with another pandemic of a different type in years to come.
Right. Dr. Bernard Malik, we already discussed a lot for the upcoming time for the year 2021 about the COVID, financial changes, and expectation from the rest of the world. Now, coming back, you already been part of the two strong protest for the farmers of India. Now, this upcoming weeks, there is some other rally, I believe, going to be take place from the women's side. What exactly what happening there, and where the farmer protest stands at this stage?
Farmers' protest in India has gone longer than expected. Government has been very stubborn in its approach, and they have refused to concede. Now I think it's an ego issue between government and the farmers. Government has pretty much conceded to all the demands of the farmers. But now they want the government to take those bills back because there is a distrust of the government. What people have all over the world, NRIs, non-resident Indians, especially who are related to farmers' families, have protested all over the world, in all big and small cities, in big and large numbers and small numbers, individual people standing with placards on highways. What we did here in Brisbane was on 5th of December, as you covered that event, we had one of the biggest protests in whole of Australia here. Large number of people came. Then another protest was organized on, I think, 18th or 19th of December. Again, here, one of the biggest. No, sorry, 28th of December, just a week ago. What we are trying to do here is our girls want to do the first all-girls protest in the world. So Brisbane will lead the world by conducting its all girls protest in support of Indian farmers here in Brisbane.
Right. So in this one, this is going to be first protest by the girls in the world, and the agenda. So how the things will, there will be speeches, there will be same placards. How do you think that is going to be happen?
It is combination of all of them. It will start from one destination. There will be car rally, and then it will at the destination from it starts. There will be few speeches, firing up the people. The girls would get into their cars. They drive to second destination where there will be coffee, tea, or something for everybody. Then they would reach another destination. There will be again small gathering trying to cheer them up. We are asking people to stand on the road and cheer up these girls going out. These are our daughters, our women, our wives, our mothers. All of them are coming out. And then at the final destination, there will be small rally for the girls to express what they want to express.
So, and just I would like to share with the viewers also exactly what time it is going to be start.
We are still working the final logistics. It's most likely it will start around 11 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And then it will be probably a 1 hour's rally.
Wonderful. Professor Pitman, protest in human nature, when people does not find a good way in front of them, there are many ways of the protest. Silence is a protest. Talking is a protest. Putting the placards is a protest. So there are many ways of the protest. You've been part of the government system. Do you think that the protest itself has a legislative value in the system, and ultimately if there is a protest, even though less number of people, it is going to be considered, it is going to be discussed at the level when it need to, where it need to be discussed?
Having worked in law enforcement for a large part of my life, it's always a vexed questions about protests.
Right.
But certainly I'm supportive of legitimate protests rather than violent protests. And I think that when you've got a legitimate protest, it certainly heightens the issue with the government. And certainly the media is quick to represent the failure of government. And the media, of course, has a powerful influence. I was interested in Bernard's comment that women want to get involved, and I've always believed that the mothers who rock the cradles rule the world.
Yes.
I think when women get more involved, it brings a compassionate but a very strong voice, because most countries in a democracy, 50% are women. And women vote very strongly on their feelings and passions and their emotional issues. And if the women vote in a protest format and get strong support, they vote en bloc. And we've seen that time and time again, that when women vote en bloc, it can have a profound influence on government. And I'm assuming India would be similar, where women are influenced by other women's support for things like the farmers.
And the former protest, Professor Pitman, you're also looking the former protests in India. So, and there are, still a lot of struggle. People are suffering because of the winter, and people are dying also because of the hunger and difficult life. So do you think this kind of protest and nothing is happening, do you think that this kind of protest is called the peaceful protest? There is no force has been used. However, there is a silent force. The people are not allowing the people to come on the area where the protest has more value.
One of the problems I think the Indian government will have is the longer the protest goes on, the more people remember. They don't forget. And when the next election comes around, and if the farmers' protest goes for months and then half a year and a year. They won't forget. And as I sort of indicated, that if the women are going to support it, and they're a majority vote, they can have a profound impact on the next government. And they may lose the election on a protracted, peaceful demonstration like the farmers. And although it will affect individuals, farmers and that, it may end up costing the government their status as a government.
Right, right. Dr. Bernard, now the females, girls are coming, and ultimately it's a different kind of form of protest. In the previous protest, we find the children, kids also there. So do you think that is it any possibility that in the female protest there will be large number of children, and there is something will maybe raised from the children's side that it's not safe for the children to be in part of the protest, number one. And the second one is there, as he mentioned already, about the protest result of the protest. So the struggle, if it is not stopping now, and it is going to impact on the election, you are finding the change in election, change in result of election could be the reason of the protest, farmer protest?
See, the word protest generally seems to have a negative connotation.
Yes.
We're used to those that at protest, there was police lathi charge, or, the water cannons were used.
Water cannon, yeah.
It's a protest. But over here, protest is very mild. You saw a protest, other than the few slogans that were raised, it was very educative. I took my children out there so they understand your rights are not given. Sometimes you have to learn to demand them. It is educative for the kids, small kids, to come out on a protest.
Right.
Second, on your question on elections.
Yeah, Chida.
Yeah, this government seems to be very insensitive to those things. They don't care. In fact, they have won better now after the protest started than they were doing before. And there has been expression used by the people that elections have been hijacked. They have used EMV, electronic voting machines, EVMs.
Yes.
And EVMs were programmed to vote for BJP. But nothing has been proven. It's all what people are saying. But at the end of the day, government seems to be doing better in votes than they did before.
But this can happen next election also. Hijacking of election, electronic system hijacking.
I think now they have mastered the system. They will do it well.
Right. Professor Pranad, we are on the last topic of our today discussion. China-Australia relation. China is growing in a differently, because there is a discussion can happen with the China and India relation. But today we would like to cover only the China and India relation. Dr. Bernard, so how you're looking the China and Australia relation?
I think relations are always among or between two respecting nations. I think at the time, China is being very arrogant, very disrespectful. They have used some of the vocabulary that you wouldn't use for your friends or for a nation that is sovereign.
Yes.
They have also been very biased with regard to the imports from Australia. I think it's a time Australia stands up for itself. And if that is what it takes to teach China some respect, then so be it.
Right. Malik Sahab, one side, the manufacturing facility going out from Australia. So other side, the China relation is going to be, is difficult. So do you think that Australia has any plan B strategy to handle the production of the China can be produced within the Australia?
I think that's what Australia is doing right now. Honorable Simon Birmingham, the Minister for Trade, and now he's Minister of Finance, was at pains trying to sign free trade agreements between Indonesia, a very big nation. They're also working on India, Pakistan. There's so many alternates. China is not the only country out there.
Right.
There is so much cheap labor in other countries. If they, buckle themselves up, they can even give better cost of goods than China. And I think Australia is planning itself to go to other free market economies and start new relations with them.
Malik Saab, before proceeding to the Professor Pitman for the same topic, I would like to know from you, do you think that this is a psychological issue with China now, because he's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, then slowly, this is human psychology, that when you are getting stronger, you are thinking the rest of the world, the rest of the people has no value. Is it psychological issue?
I'm not sure if that is a psychological issue, but China has been a rogue state right from the start. If you really
right from the start,
they have gone into international waters. They have ongoing conflicts with many nations, as late as a couple of months ago with India. Whereas people may like or may not like the current government and the prime minister, but he's very good at international relations. BJP, the current government, was known for having bilateral and international relations. Their foreign policy was very strong. So they brought in Chinese president. They took him around so many places in India for 2 days, had very friendly relationships. That is to cement a friendship with China. But China turns around and stabs them. This is what they did with Pandit Nehru, our first prime minister too. Pandit Nehru was in China and they were singing Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. He lands in India and China had already attacked India by then. So China cannot be trusted for its friendship.
Right. Professor Pitman, China cannot be trusted. Now, this is one thing. What I'd like to know from you at the backstage, do you think there is something happening to handle the trade, or let's say to compensate the trade relation as other than China to the other countries? Do you have any idea, anything happening there that okay, because the relation China is not settling in the way it should be?
Recent media reports indicates that Australia has signed a significant trade agreement with India. Just before Christmas. And of course, England has pulled out of the European Union, which means it's open now to trade where it wants to. So I think Australia will diversify its trade interests around the world, and certainly England and India will be two of the countries that Australia will move towards. But having said that, I think that people will start to vote with their feet here in Australia. For example, my stove broke down last week, and I had an option between a Chinese stove to buy, which was cheaper, or an Australian stove, which was slightly dearer. We made the decision to buy the Australian stove.
Yes, good.
But my computer battery died a couple of days ago as well. And I ordered it here in Australia, but when I got it, it was a Chinese battery. So we will still buy some things of Chinese, but I think in a country like Australia, we will probably look more closely at where the product is manufactured and probably not buy as many Chinese products into the future. So we'll vote with our money where our country is concerned in its interest rather than Chinese products in the future. And I think that's what will happen in Australia.
Right. Professor Pitman, you've been engaged in the past with the policies and with the political parties. I know this cannot be your fault, but what happened in last many years, the manufacturing industry is going out, and we start depending on the outsourced countries. And now this is the result of depending on the outsourced country. Do you think that was calculated that it could happen and we can go plan B, we can go another country, or that was a failure of a policy that you should not depend a lot on and you should not close all manufacturing facility the way they closed?
I think the Labor Party in Australia sort of put their trust in countries like China. The Conservatives had some major business people connected there and had influence in the Conservatives. So I think the issue was Australia saw China as a cash cow and took advantage of it. The difficulty they had, and I think Dr. Bernard's right, when you're dealing with a socialist state, their agenda is very much one-sided, and particularly when their laws are changed to give a lot more power to the central authorities, which means they can dictate more on business terms, trade terms, and economic and the banking. And having to currently develop some cyber security courses, which will have a major impact on trade in the future. The principle they talk about is no trust principle. Whereas in the business world, we talk about trust. So I think in the future, we may have the opposite to the business ideology for decades to a no trust policy.
No
trust policy when dealing with countries like China. So, which is sad to see, but that's probably the way it will go.
Dr. Bernard Malik, now look like, I'm just referring the example of Professor Pitman. He would like to buy something and he find there are same thing is available in different countries. Now, does in future the war is the concept of war is going to be changed or is diverted? Like we don't like to our country don't like to go in a war. The trade is going to be used as a war. Like if the whole country, the people from the whole country, they don't like to buy a product, anything from the country. It's again, it's you almost trying to stopping the growth of the country. Do you think it's a form of the war and it could happen in future that the war shape of the war will be changed?
Absolutely. The concept of war has changed now. Earlier, people used to fight war to gain the territory. So they would go and attack a nation, and whatever territory they can gain, they would add it to their own nation. Now, the war is not like this. Lately, for last number of years, the wars have been fought to weaken the nations.
Weaken the nation, yes.
Right. And now that is what's happening now. If you see, China is fighting a big war with the world. Let's admit it, this thing started in China. And for last almost a year, since last December, people have spent billions of dollars trying to find a remedy for it, the vaccine. And even today, I was just reading the current vaccine that most of the countries claim to develop will not work on South African strain of COVID.
Right.
So what is happening is new strains are coming up and new vaccines cannot be developed that fast. So this war is actually making countries weaker because when the citizens cannot go out and work, when the businesses are not doing well, when you take all that into consideration, slowly the countries will have no economy to survive on.
Right. I think, Dr. Bernard, we cover most of the area and you started a new topic, which I would like to keep for the next week, that does the world is going to change to the new world order where some are going to have the main power and rest of the country is serving as a state of the country. I think that could be a good discussion from our side. I believe today we discuss about Australian system, financial impact, COVID situation, and then what happening in the India informal protest. And now I would like to thanks to Dr. Bernard Malik for his ultimate time. Thank you, Dr. Bernard Malik. Today's discussion was a bit difficult but hard because we would like to predict the whole year. Thank you, Professor Pitman. We ultimately have very good things from you. And now I would like to close out my show, and we will discuss in the next week about that does system of the world is going to be changed from the new super world order kind of things. So I believe today's show ultimately going to have some good comments, good values and feedback. Don't try to forget to give you our feedback to our program. Until next Tuesday, it's over from ShoaibZaidi, it's over from 72 News. Thank you, Dr. Bernard Malik. Thank you, Professor Pitman. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.